We're about to. Hi, welcome to OCD Game Changers Maverick Mondays. Wait, Monday Mavericks. Monday Mavericks.
Monday Mavericks.
You know why I didn't want to call it Maverick Mondays? Because of it's just another manic Monday. I was like, I am not going to be like.
I don't know what it is.
You know that song though, right? Oh God. Okay, it's a really popular song that was back in the 80s, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it was very popular, and every time I would think about it, I would get it stuck in my head, so I was like, no, we're going to do Monday Maverick, so I don't have to think about it every time. Yeah, so, oh my God, look, this is going to be better than Real Housewives. That's the first comment we just got.
It is going to be better than Real Housewives because there is a mouse in my house right now.
I know. Okay, let me start. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I am the executive director and founder of OCD Game Changers. I wrote Pure OCD. I'm a peer support specialist. And then my new business, hey, OCDpeers.com. That is where we run groups, support groups. I'm about to put that bitch up here. Watch this. I know. I mean, I can promote, right? We'll just pretend this is about me. There we go.
Wow, that looks amazing.
So anyway, this is what I do at OCDpeers.com. We run groups, support groups. They're, virtual anywhere around the world. Go to OCDpeers.com to join. They have been so awesome. Anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alegra. So, first I need to tell you, Allegra's not feeling so well today because there's potentially a mouse in her apartment. And I got this message, about 45 minutes ago. I think there's a mouse here. I don't know what to do. And so I was like, we're going to go on anyway and ERP it, throw some cheese down, create a pet. Like, we'll have a pet. Anyway, Alegra, you and the mouse, introduce yourself.
First of all, I'm terrified. Second of all, so I'm Alegra, and I am an OCD therapist. I specialize in the treatment of OCD, BDD, BFRBs, and anxiety disorders. And I'm also an OCD advocate. You're probably going to hear my dogs bark at some point. They hear the mouse. So, okay, so I'm an OCD advocate, and I think advocacy is so incredibly important because it reaches people who might have no idea what it is that's going on in their brain. And that's like really what made me want to be an advocate, and what made me want to create my Instagram platform is to provide that education so that people don't feel alone and that people are not suffering without understanding what is going on. So I'm an advocate. I'm also an activist, a feminist, and I am super excited to be here.
Well, Mackenzie says you should throw some cheese down, first of all.
Mackenzie, girl, I've thrown some cheese down. That's why I have this mouse in this house. Okay. I put cheese in my dog food to help them eat it, and I think the mouse found out.
And now you found some new friends. Anyway, so thank you for being here, Alegra. Just so you know, Monday Mavericks is this cool series I wanted to create to really get people on here who are doing this awesome stuff. Like, sometimes people may tell you there's not a lot of organizations and things like that support OCD, and that's just simply not true. There's lots of people out there. There's lots of advocates. There's lots of organizations. There's lots of therapy practices and a lot of individuals just so passionate about this community. And we know some of the biggest barriers are finding people all around the world that have no idea that they even have OCD. So Allegra I'm like having trouble talking here. Allegra and I have a very similar story where we lived with, intrusive thoughts, with mental rituals, didn't know what was going on. They were devastating. They wrecked our lives. And then when we did finally find out what was going on and get treatment, then the shift turned to, I want to do advocacy. I've got to help people. This is what I'm going to do. And this is what a lot of people do. When they finally figure out this is OCD, I can give back, and OCD Game Changers is here to provide that platform to help support you, to help promote you, and to help give you a voice, because all of our voices are needed. So with that, I want to specifically talk about what it was about there's a few things I want to talk about, but what it was about your experience with the onset of OCD, how devastating it was for you, and then getting treatment, and then all of a sudden being like, my entire life is going to change now. I'm going to treat people with OCD, and then boom, I'm also going to advocate for people with OCD. Tell us.
Okay, so I've told this story a couple of times, but essentially when I was 19, I had an intrusive thought that just changed the course of my entire life. It was like, what if I had sex with a kid or something like that? And it was so opposite to what I knew of myself. And it was absolutely terrifying. You know, I think I've said this before, all OCD is really difficult, but I think the sexually intrusive thoughts about kids is the most stigmatizing and potentially terrifying, because I think the worst thing that you could be in society is like a pedophile. I think most people would agree on that. So I had this thought, it turned into this obsession all day, every day was getting thoughts and images, and it terrified me. I was at a point eventually where I just didn't know that I was going to continue anymore, like living, because I didn't want to live like that. And I was so afraid to Google for so long, like, why am I experiencing these thoughts? Because I didn't want to find out that I was some horrible person. And there was one point in my journey, I remember it, where I was like, I can't do this. So I need to figure this out, or like something's going to happen. And I Googled, and I think I found intrusivethoughts.org. I think that was like the first website I ever found. Love Erin, and it's now made of millions. And it really gave a name to what it is that I was experiencing. I still didn't believe it at the time, because I thought there's no way that like everything we hear about OCD, like loving organization and being tidy, there's no way that this aligns with what it is that I'm experiencing. Eventually, I saw a therapist, I got diagnosed, and now I realize that it is OCD. But I think not knowing what was happening in my mind for so long, and not knowing that OCD can take the form of unwanted intrusive thoughts that are so opposite to your values, that made me really want to advocate. Because if I was suffering silently, there have to be so many other people out there suffering as well. And I am really big on my platform about sharing, you know, about the more taboo obsessions, whether it's like sexual obsessions, harm obsessions, because, you know, some people might be afraid to go there or feel like people are going to think it's odd if they have that on their page. But I love talking about that stuff, because I want people to know that this is OCD. This is what people experience when they have the disorder. So I would say like the uniqueness of it and just my experience of not knowing really made me want to put more information out there.
So what drove you into wanting to treat OCD?
Oh, that's a good question. I didn't know at first that I wanted to. At first I said, hell no. I did not want to pick up anybody else's obsessions. That was a thing for me. I used to think like, I don't want to hear what somebody else is thinking and then pick that up. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go back to school and I'm going to get my master's, but I'll probably work with eating disorders because I'm really passionate about that as well. And during my time, like leading up to grad school, I kind of realized that this was just what I was really passionate about. It was one of my values. And I thought like, I have this lived experience and I was helped so much by my treatment team. How awesome would it be to live a life helping other people in that way? And that's when I started interning at UCLA. They have an intensive outpatient program for OCD. And I was a little afraid that I was going to pick up on some obsessions. But what I learned from working there was like, I don't know that anything would be worse than what it is that I experienced in terms of the POCD. And nothing really bothers me per se. Like, I don't think I've ever had a client say something where I'm like, oh, fuck, now I'm going to pick up on that. Mm-hmm. Because this is what I do all day, every day. I do exposures with clients. We watch like videos and documentaries about pedophilia. And I mean, this is my job every single day. So I'm not afraid of the OCD anymore in that way.
I appreciate you saying that, because a lot of people who do want to give back worry that if they're going to become a therapist or, now, there's opportunities to become a peer support certified and doing it appropriately and not unethically. People do worry that if I'm going to work with someone, what if I am going to take on their OCD? What if I'm going to meet with someone? And Alegra, I find the same thing. I think there was a little bit of an issue with me at first feeling that way. And then what I found is I was able to find I'm always able to find my story and the person I'm meeting with.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
remember when I felt like that. I remember being at that place. I remember this. I remember that. And the symbiotic piece of that is people teach me that I'm not alone. Just by sharing their own story, I'm able to heal from things that I thought I didn't even know were OCD sometimes.
For
They'll say
sure.
things and I'm like, oh, well, I guess that's OCD.
Mhm.
And like the symbiotic relationship there is so powerful. So, just to give a little disclaimer, if you're on the fence about going into treating OCD or doing something that involves supporting through the proper channels of doing it ethically and credentialed, don't be afraid to do that. There's a lot of people in this community. This is why our community is so amazing. There's a lot of people that will mentor you, that will supervise you, that will help you process as you grow in your career. And we need more people. So if you're on the fence, I'm shoving you over right now. Like, you're over the fence, like, go for it. Let's do this. You've got two people that have OCD that went down different paths, doing things that are helping to support our community. There's a lot of different options.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember that, like, as therapists and peer support specialists, we're also human beings. And I think that got to me a bit. Like, if I had a bad flare up of OCD for a day, I thought to myself, like, are you reading comments?
No. Yes. They're all good.
I saw your face go there. So if I had like a bad day with my OCD, I would think, oh my gosh, like, I'm a therapist. Shouldn't I have my shit together? I shouldn't be struggling in this way. And my therapist said to me, like, being a therapist doesn't rid you of anything. So I think it's also having expectations. Like, you can be a therapist and you can still struggle at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's probably not healthy if you're like in the thick of your OCD and you need intensive treatment to be a therapist. But being a therapist doesn't mean that you're never going to have a difficult day or a bad day or a tough time. That's what it means to be human. And I will also say that I do sometimes have intrusive thoughts in session, whether it's about my clients or other things. So it's a lot of mindfulness work. It's me having to, like, okay, notice I just had that thought, bring it back to what the client is saying. So that's normal. In the same way that I would have thoughts about anybody that I was working with or people that I see on the street, I might have them about clients too. And that's okay. That's just part of living with OCD.
Agreed. Yes, I was reading comments. People are saying lots of good things. Hello, everybody. Hi, Felice and Laura, and Mackenzie, Daisy, Brian, Pyatt. Yay. Amy Jinx, Hans. Oh, hello. Thank you for being here, everybody. Again, we're meeting with Alegra Kastens, badass OCD advocate. Let's turn this a little bit to how you became so fierce. So, I think there's a lot of things about advocacy that are great. So I've been in advocacy now for years and years and years. And I love watching people come in. Maybe they go out. Maybe they dabble. Maybe they find their niche. And there's so many. Like you mentioned Aaron before. Like, Aaron is the anger advocate. And I love it. Sorry, Aaron. No, if you're watching this, I don't mean that in a bad way. But like, he is fueled by this passion and emotion of like, and that makes him go after finding people and doing everything that they. Sorry, it's not the mouse.
Oh my gosh.
Is it the mouse?
No, hold on. Someone's at my door. Give me 1 second. I swear.
I'll keep talking. So apparently Allegra knocked on someone's door earlier because she was worried about a mouse. So now that they're probably here going, do I need to Was it the neighbor about the mouse?
I wish it was. So I don't know if you all know Jessica Serber at Your Mind is a Muscle on Instagram. She just brought me a cookie and she didn't
come in.
I know. She's allergic to the dogs.
Oh, well, Jessica's going to be on one of our fireside chats in like 4 weeks.
I'm going to send this to her. I'm so sorry. I didn't know she was going to be here so soon. I wonder if she was texting me. Oh my gosh, poor thing was. Okay. Anyways, okay, so you were saying Aaron.
Yeah, and Aaron, love you, by the way, and you know I'm your biggest supporter. But like, we all fill those roles. We all find our niche. We all find that place where it's like, I fit in right here. And this group of people needs to hear exactly what I'm saying. And Alegra, like, again, this is a really small community with lots of people doing a lot of things. And I remember hearing about you a few years ago, like you came to Gamechangers in Denver And then all of a sudden I joined Instagram for the first time ever. And then I was like, oh, Alegra's a little fierce. And so let's follow her and see what's going on. And as it turns out, you have created an entire genre, I guess, of advocates that are like, fuck everybody. I want to say what I want.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only about OCD, it's about a lot of social justice issues, about a lot of really standing up in our community for things that need to be said. That, I mean, we're a community just like every other community. I know there's politics. I know there's we need to save face. But I also know that we align very much with, I don't want to save face because people are dying.
That's
and
it.
we find people and we've got to help them. So whether or not they don't know about pedophilia theme or harm theme because people are too afraid to say it, or they, people don't want to talk about how they're getting unethical treatment from people that aren't trained in therapy, or they don't want to say this because there are cultural differences that are preventing people from getting therapy. There's financial barriers, all this. These are the things that have got to be brought to the surface. They've got to be talked about because we've got to save lives.
Yeah.
So with all that said, tell me how you got there.
Oh, that's such a good question. So I have always been into social justice and human rights. And I think in the last couple of years, this is TMI, but I grew up in like a very conservative environment. And that is like what I knew growing up. And I didn't align with it. So once I like got out on my own, I really came to with, I came into my own essentially like beliefs. And when I say beliefs, I don't mean like necessarily like political beliefs, which a lot of people get confused with on Instagram. Like they'll say things like, you shouldn't talk politics as a therapist when I advocate for Black lives or the LGBTQIA plus community. And I'm actually writing an article about this that I'm super excited to share, but these are human lives at stake and these are human rights. And I advocate for human beings. So if that means saying things that make people uncomfortable, it's not like this is going to sound, I don't want this to sound rude, but it's not my job to protect people from their discomfort in that way, especially when people are dying, like you say. Black lives are being murdered every single day. And conversion therapy is legal in 30 states. And like, these are real life issues that affect people. And they don't just affect people in like the outside world, outside of this OCD community. They affect people within the OCD community. They affect my clients. They affect my colleagues. And I will never dim myself down so that other people can, what's the word that I'm looking for? So that I will be more like palpable to other people. That's just never been who I am. I'm my best self when I'm organically myself. And that is what I have taken to my advocacy work. Someone said to me over the weekend, like, do you realize that you could lose business by sharing your views so strongly? And my response to that is like,
bye.
Okay. Like if someone doesn't want to work with me because I'm advocating for Black lives, don't let the door hit you on the way out. And I don't mean that in like, of course I want everybody to get treatment, but like I said earlier, like human lives are at stake. In the same way that people have OCD and their lives are at stake when they're suffering so bad, Black lives are at stake. Black lives matter. And so I want to advocate for those issues that need advocated for.
And I think that one of the things I want to emphasize is it's really important to remember that there's always been some sort of code of professionalism, right? So in people that are like, oh, well, you don't talk about politics, you don't talk about religion, you don't talk about this. Those codes, as much as sometimes when it gets really heavy, I'm like, I wish those codes were still here, but they're just inapplicable right now. Like, we can't be that way anymore. Like you said, our community, first of all, I'm just going to say it, like right now in the OCD community, you have to be in the upper echelon financially to be able to afford therapy. So when we are advocating, we're advocating to an echo chamber, and it's bullshit. We've got to be able to reach people, create avenues for people to get help in different cultures, in different countries, with different language barriers, all of this stuff. There's nothing being done about it. And so, if we just stay in our own little, oh, but we can't say this because it's not professional, then we're not really advocating. I'm not going to turn somebody away because, if I have one religion, which I don't, by the way, but if I have one religion and someone came to me and they had a different religion, I as a peer support specialist, I'm not going to say, well, I'm not going to support you because of this. The same way I would expect someone to say, well, she believes this, I'm not going to go to her. I mean, we're all adults here.
And I think
it's like, come on, I can support you. I can, if my toilet's clogged up and somebody drives up with a candidate for president that I don't agree with, I don't give a shit. Like, please help me with my toilet. For therapy.
Yeah. And I also think there's this, first of all, I think, like I said earlier, politics get confused with human rights. And people say well, we all have different political views and we should be able to have those. But then it's interesting because they don't necessarily want helping professionals to have their own views. But the thing that I cannot stand for is things like Black Lives, that's not up for opinion. You can have an opinion about whether or not you like vanilla or strawberry. You can have an opinion about I don't know, whatever it may be. Human lives are not up for opinion. And I think that's where people get confused. Is Black Lives Matter is political. It's not political. It's about human beings at the very minimum being able to exist and live. That's what it's about. So I think people get very confused with what is politics and with what is no, this is human rights. This is literally someone's basic right to live. And then I also think professional. What does professional mean to people? Because being a therapist and advocating doesn't make one unprofessional. Mm-hmm. I think if somebody thinks that's unprofessional, then find a different therapist. There are going to be some therapists that don't utilize Instagram. But I think like you said, especially now in this day and age, silence is contributing to injustice. And I, just because I'm a therapist, will not sacrifice who I am and sacrifice what needs to happen so that human beings have equality so that I can fulfill this professional role per se.
I love that. And I think that it's new territory. A lot of us are venturing in. I think it's
right about that.
Definitely this generational turnover of, okay, before everything was hush hush, but now it's okay to say these things. And still I can put all political justice, social issues aside if somebody is suffering and I need to support them. None of that matters when I am in the room with someone or on Zoom and I need to support them. And I guess would expect the same in return.
Yeah. And I think there are so many pieces to this, which is why I'm writing this out in an article. But therapists are also trained not to work with clients that they think that they would have a lot of countertransference toward. So if somebody does not want to work with someone who's racist, they provide referrals. So it's also this idea that therapists have to work with every single client that comes their way. No, they don't. The ethical thing to do is to refer a client out when you think that your own stuff might get in the way. And yeah, so that also is possible. And when people say to me, do you think you could lose business? Doesn't that matter to you? Not at all. I'm not going to like I said earlier, I'm not going to sacrifice who I am in my advocacy, and I'm not going to put other people's lives on the line just so that I can get business, because I'll get enough business being exactly who I am.
Great point. So tell us a little bit, just to kind of wrap up, I have two questions really quick. So the first one is, where do you see your advocacy going? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, it's such a generic question. Sorry, but I threw it out there.
Question too. Definitely more writing. I really love writing. I have my blog with Psychology Today called All Things Anxiety. So I think more writing for sure. And I don't know. I mean, that's just definitely continuing to be an activist and an advocate and a feminist. I mean, all of the same things that I'm doing essentially, but hopefully on a grander scale, hopefully to a larger audience and through different mediums, but what I'm doing now.
So if someone is listening to this and they're like, oh my God, I want to be an advocate, but I could never be as extreme as Allegra.
Extreme, one word for it. I would call it brave.
Give them some advice on, like, if someone's like dabbling and they want to do something, just in your experience of getting to the place that you are now, what would you tell someone that's like, I really just want to start speaking out and I don't know what or where to begin with?
Yeah, I would say be you. And I know that sounds very cliche, but like be who you are. And I think like the people that I admire most are the people who are very organic, and you can tell, like when you look at them as a person or you look at their brand, you just know, like Aaron, like you said, Aaron is Aaron. I wouldn't ever worry about Aaron sacrificing like his beliefs or sacrificing, yes, who he is as a person to please other people. Like what you get from Aaron is what you get. What you see is what you get. So be yourself, and there's going to be a community of people that's going to take to that. You're always, my therapist actually said this to me the other day, which I thought was hilarious. That she said, like, there's always going to be haters when you do things that are meaningful. And I do get comments sometimes that like really bother me or infuriate me, but I think you also get used to it. And you recognize like, this isn't about me. This is something internally about that other person that they're struggling with. Like this is their own stuff that they're projecting onto my page. So it can be scary to speak out about things that might be like controversial, even though I don't understand how human lives can be controversial. But to advocate is going to be like having some people that might not agree. And that's okay. You can tolerate that. It's, what you get out of it is so much more, I would say, meaningful than like the few horrid comments that you get.
Right. Exactly. Did I spell that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So go over to Alegra's page.
Do this, and you can like
on Instagram, check out Obsessively Ever After. One of the things I just want to follow up with that is, advocacy a lot of times is about selling empathy. Like that's our product. We sell empathy to get buyers. And I don't mean buyers like money. I mean, like, we need people buying in on issues that are going to change people's lives. And so when we sell empathy, meaning we are talking about what we do, we are telling our story, we're sharing our lived experience. That's how we get people in. And sometimes, it goes to a place where it's challenging people, but I always look at it as this: you're still planting seeds. If somebody's willing to argue back, that means they're something inside of them has been needled, and maybe they need to take a good look at it. So if you're on the fence about advocating, there's a lot of room. There's a big stage up here. We need you up here. Whatever you want to contribute, come on, bring yourself. I agree with Alegra. Just be you, because the authenticity of being an advocate is what really reaches people. You know how it is, like when people are fake, like when people are just polished to the point where it's not there anymore. Like you lose the message.
Yeah, it's not as impactful as people who are organically themselves. And you will get a community of people who supports you. You'll have some that don't. But something I always say to my clients is like, if the bad thing happens, you'll cope with it. So, okay, if I get some people that comment really rude things on this post, I'll cope with it. It's not the end of the world. Like the good that's going to come from this far outweighs the minor inconvenience and the rude comments.
Take the risk, live with the uncertainty. Allegra, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure.
Fast.
I know.
Fast.
It always does, because it's interesting conversation. It's fun talk. I love you. Thank you for all that you do. Appreciate who you are. Any final words?
I don't know. I'm thinking about this mouse. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I love this community so much. If you're struggling with OCD, I see you, I hear you, and I'm so grateful to have this platform that reaches so many people. Like when I get your messages and the really kind comments, it makes my heart so full. So I couldn't do this without the community of people that supports me too.
Well, we appreciate you. I'm very lucky to have you in our community. So thank you for all that you do.
Mm-hmm.
And thank everybody for being here today for this Monday Mavericks. Yay! These are always so much fun. I hope you feel inspired. And if you're on the fence about doing advocacy, please take the plunge. I know both, if you reach out to either one of us, we'll be able to just help give you some, like a little bit of a shove or a little bit of a, we're probably both going to say the same thing. We're probably just going to say, just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't look back. Like, find something that you really love, start there, and just be consistent, and people will follow, and we need you here in the community. So thank you, everybody who supports Game Changers. We'll be back next Friday. I don't know, what day is it? It's Monday. Oh God. So 2 Fridays from now. Oh, Ashley Anasted is coming on, and we're going to be talking about shrooms for OCD. So that is going to be so exciting.
Like a wild time.
I know. I want to say like what it's actually called, but I will mispronounce it and sound like an idiot. There you go, psilocybin. I was going to say psilocybin. So I'll just go shrooms. So that'll be 2 Fridays from now at our fireside chat. I look forward to seeing you then. If you are interested in becoming part of what we are doing with Game Changers, we've got a lot of initiatives coming up. And also we are taking donations as well. Please go to ocdgamechangers.com. And is that right? Yes, ocdgamechangers.com. Thank you, Allegra. Thank you, everyone. We will see you soon. Bye.